Hello, and welcome to another episode of Point to Point. It's the show where I go from point to point and try to get to the point. Today, our point, well, it's about reviews. I have had thoughts about reviews. I don't know how niche this particular topic is. Maybe this reference is a little outdated at this point, but probably every couple months I go back and reread Jeff Gerstmann's review of Crackdown 3. And it's an interesting review because it is kind of the last one he has ever done. And it's a good review. It's not necessarily a review about Crackdown 3, which, is kind of odd. But the notion of the piece that he wrote is in the current age that we live in, what is the purpose of a review? And I've been thinking more and more about it as we kind of, I've had some good traction on some video work that I've been doing. I still get some people reading reviews on the website, but it's clear that the more bloggy stuff is getting more traction on the website than the reviews are. And as I kind of sit down and I'm about halfway through a review of South of Midnight right now, it's kind of been something I've been chewing on a bit of like, well, what is the best use for the thoughts that I have on South of Midnight? Like, is there better use of those words in a video project where I can kind of show what I'm talking about and have something, critical and interesting to say about South of Midnight? Or is it more important to put out words on a website that can help you make a purchasing decision? And the question that comes up in Gerstmann's review of Crackdown 3 is, the power of reviews as, consumer, like watching out for consumers has like been degraded over the decades, right? Like as you can play these games on subscription services or they come out crazy cheap on Steam all the time, like my review of South of Midnight, like especially when I do not assign numbers to reviews and they're just kind of reviews from a critical lens of how this game plays, what the story is like, and how it, is affecting or not. Like, are you reading a review in 2025 and saying, yes, that was a good positive review. I am now going to spend $10, $20, $30, $40, $60, $70 on this thing because I read some words on a website and it was positive. When your enjoyment of games has expanded beyond, going to the local Toys R Us to purchase a hard copy of this game, and I imagine most people who listen to this are experiencing games not just by playing them, but also by watching them and by, ingesting criticism or memes related to video games. And so your consumer behavior on how to experience games has changed significantly since the review came out. It's kind of the same thing with movies, right? Like, do you really need to know my review of whatever the latest new movie is? Or do you just want to wait 3 weeks for Thunderbolts to hit Disney Plus and then you can kind of just watch 10 minutes of it because you've already paid for the subscription and you'll know whether you're in or not? Like, the purpose of the review has kind of, it's lost its power in some ways, and in other ways it's kind of been just fully replaced. Like again, the enjoyment of video games has expanded beyond just simply playing the game, which then kind of makes it difficult to decide, like, my limited amount of time I have to do games related stuff, is it best spent in writing, 1,500, 2,000 words about South of Midnight, a game that came out in April? Or do I actually just make it a bigger project and end up writing, 1,000 to 1,500 words to record a 10 to 15 minute video and like do all of the work to do something like that? Because also when we're talking about reviews, part of the reason reviews were such a big hit is that in the kind of pre-guides world, that's how you got clicks, right? Like part of the economic engine of running a video game website is reviews, or at least it used to be. Like, you would get people to buy your magazine because it has the latest reviews of the latest games in it. You would get people to come to your website to see what your staff is saying, like what the numbers is. And we still kind of see this with, everyone being fucking mad about what the latest IGN review is. But it's not the same anymore, right? Like, that's not how it works. Like, we know that guides are the general moneymaker these days for video game websites, because you get more clicks from people trying to figure out how to play a game or how to defeat a certain boss than people coming to read up if I should buy Night Rain or not. And so it's just kind of had me in this kind of, it's not an existential spiral, it's just kind of a more like musing feeling about, what is the purpose of the review? And, I enjoy writing reviews, but is it something that people enjoy reading? And if you do enjoy reading it, why? What are you getting out of reading a review? And I guess even further from that, like, as a person who is trying to, spin up a website that hopefully will be a success and do stuff, like, it's that economic tension, right? Like, as much as I enjoy writing reviews, I also enjoy doing other things. And so now I have this time tension of, okay, well, I only have X amount of hours to write a thing that can be output as other thing, like whether that is written review or video essay or podcast episode. And now that I have these three things that I like doing, it becomes a question of, well, I have thoughts about South of Midnight. Are those thoughts better geared towards reviews, or are they better geared towards a like video format? And is the thought that I have about South of Midnight more fitting that than it is something like a written review? And then kind of take it a little bit further, and now we get into the economic tension. If, people are not reading reviews as much, is it more worthwhile for me to spend the extra time and the extra effort to, instead of spending 2 or 3 days writing a well-written review, do I take a week and a half to put out an essay on something that I find is interesting about South of Midnight, and then is my expected return on that like higher? And these are kind of like all of the pressures that are going on in the back of my mind, is that kind of weigh what content we do at 70% complete. And it's, we are still very much a hobbyist organization. I know we've kind of joked about it in the past of like mostly being ideas based, and we have ideas all over the place. Even stuff on episodes that came out earlier this week, I talk about different, tech related things we want to do. But I think that it's something that it's a difficult decision to make, because if we're going to kind of just automatically, by not being on everyone's PR list, to get Death Stranding 2 a month early or whatever, that means that any coverage of a game that we do is going to come out after the release date. And if it comes out after the release date, the like massive pressure of people looking for more information about this game they want to buy is like, it's gone. Like, we kind of just miss out on all of that kind of like attention. So putting out a review 3 months after a game came out. Like, you're coming to that review to see a new perspective on South of Midnight. You're not coming there to see another thing that will help you decide if you want to play that game. And the timeliness aspect doesn't really bother me. I'm not gonna kind of grind myself into dust so that we can put out a review on release day. That's just not kind of what we're doing. We're not in that business. But that means that, for every review that we do, it's another video project that's not getting done. It's another podcast that isn't getting done. So is it worth it to do that? And also kind of the confines of a review is, you try not to spoil things. You want to give like an overview of the game and kind of how it plays and what you feel about it. But, as you've probably heard in the past couple episodes of this show about South of Midnight, my main concern is not like if you should buy this game or not. I think that there is a much more interesting question to, there are design choices about this game. Like the highly effective emotional story in this game is like top notch, really well done, incredibly well acted, looks beautiful. But for, since chapter 6, I have skipped every single combat sequence except the boss battles. And I think that is an interesting thing to talk about and kind of peel apart and digest. But if you write that down in a review, is that review just story 8 out of 10, combat 3 out of 10, and then we'll just average that? We'll just make that like a 4.5, and then because the music's good, we'll put some artist tilt on there and bump it up to a 5. And like, I don't think that South of Midnight is a 5 out of 10 game. So I just kind of like a look into what it is taking to kind of make the content decisions that we are, and kind of, I don't know, just really taking a look at what we put out and trying to be more targeted and critical of the stuff that we put out, because it's just the two of us right now. Like, we don't want to just kind of spit out more stuff to get more views, because it that kind of dilutes what we want to do. Like, we want to make high quality good stuff, and that means it's going to take some time. And so it's just kind of got me, to bring this back around, it's just kind of got me in this weird spiral about, do we do reviews? Like, is that worthwhile? Like, what do we gain from doing reviews, and what does the readership gain from doing reviews, instead of thinking about games through like a critical lens about like how mechanics interact with story? And is it more interesting to have a, like, using South of Midnight as a case study in, what makes good combat design and what makes good like combat design and story verisimilitude? Like, what, is that a more compelling thing to think about? But I have to hop on this train now, so thanks for hanging out on me on this this drive from point to point. You can hit me up on Blue Sky if you have thoughts on this, or leave comments on the YouTube version of this. But yeah, let me know what you think, because I'm very curious how you are using reviews, because I still read them every once in a while, but they are not my preferred media, I guess, for ingesting information about games. But thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. And I guess, like, enjoy the rest of your day, right? Like, let's have a good one. All right, I'll see ya. Bye.